Yep.
Got it.
All right. So now here we go into the next portion of this where we are going to be deciding teams are it's halfway through the year, contenders or pretenders. A lot of teams are in a dogfight for playoff positions right now. I'll go ahead and get started with my first one. And my first team is the Atlanta Falcons. And with the Atlanta Falcons, even though they're at the top of the division right now, they are at the top of the division. But I'm gonna have to say they're a pretender just because I think there's just so many other teams in that not in the division, in the conference, like the Lions, like even the Commanders now at this point. That whole NFC West, I think the Niners could take out the Falcons. I think the Cardinals even would have a shot. I just think there's so many teams in that division that it's just would be tough to really see the Falcons getting through that, even in their own division. I mean, the Falcons, yeah, they could ball off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensively. But honestly, the Bucs defense has been one of their weaker spots on that team this year. But the Buccaneers are still really good. Even with Godwin and Mike Evans out, they're still able to put up some points. They're still able to be competitive. So even though Godwin's out for the year, they're going to end up getting Mike Evans back at some point. And I just even think within that own division, they're going to have a lot of trouble there. So I'm just going to have to go ahead and say that they're going to be pretenders this year. What do you guys think?
I would agree with that. I think they're a very weird team. Like I like them a lot, but I think they're like a year or two away.
Yeah, I agree.
I
All
think
right,
if they
let's.
had Belichick, it would be looking
Oh,
a lot better.
I would agree. They actually went out and got Belichick like they wanted to until Robert Kraft. I don't understand how the Falcons owner, Arthur Blank, how did he let Robert Kraft, an owner of a different team, an owner of a team that beat him in the Super Bowl, how did he convince him, don't get Belichick? Don't get the guy that came back 25 points against you. Like, I'd be like, you came back down by 25 in the Super Bowl to me. I think, even though you had Tom Brady, there was still a coach behind there rallying the men to do it. And that was Bill Belichick. Shockingly. Shockingly, it was Bill Belichick. I don't like Raheem Morris. He seems like a fine coach, but I would not choose Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick, even at this point.
Facts.
All right, Evan, you went ahead and decided you were going to go with the Bengals as one of your pretender contenders. What do you think they are?
I think a lot of people think they're pretenders, but I realistically could see this team being in the AFC Championship come playoff time. I think they're contenders. I just don't think you can count out an offense with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. And I think one of the things that's going to really help this team is I think Chase Brown is a lot more explosive than Zach Moss. So I think we could see the run game being used more. I think Gesicki's one of those guys who come postseason we could see have a really big game. I have a lot of faith in this team. I think they'll figure it out. They're 3-4. You look at their schedule; they can easily win 7 to 8 of their remaining games and be looking at one of the top teams in the AFC, maybe middle of the pack, 4 or 5 seed or 5, 6 seed. But I'm not counting them out yet. I think they're contenders.
You think they're better than the Steelers and the Ravens in that division?
I think come postseason, I'm taking the Bengals over both of them. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I like the Bengals. I really like their schedule. Like Burrow said just the other day, they need to win 7 of 9, and he thinks that's doable. When looking at that schedule, I agree. I think it is doable for that team to be able to rattle off that many wins. They're a slow starting team. They are year in, year out. Chase Brown has definitely, like you said, he's taken over that backfield. He has so much speed and versatility that Zach Moss just doesn't have. And I think the Bengals could be real contenders. I don't know if I'd say they make it to like the AFC Championship or something, but I think they could easily sneak into the playoffs and make some noise. Nikos, who's one of your pretenders contenders?
So I picked the Eagles for one of mine just because I do not trust Nick Sirianni to do really much anything this season. I mean, they have been kind of clicking recently, but I don't know. I just don't have faith in Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's the greatest coach, and I don't think Hurts is elite. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're just going to choke if they ever get the chance to even make it to the playoffs. I think they're going to choke right away, like they have before.
Do you think if
Fuck the Eagles.
Yeah.
Do you think
And
if
I don't
the
think
Eagles
I
had
don't
a
think
different
the
coach, they'd be fine?
I mean, maybe depending on who it is, I guess, but I don't think they are gonna with the Washington Commanders in that division. I think the Commanders are gonna beat them out.
Yeah, I think honestly a lot of it is on Sirianni. I think Sirianni just kind of overstayed his welcome at this point. The Eagles, they always are, outside of Andy Reid, they've been known to just always try and get new head coaches in there. And it's kind of relatively worked for them, especially in recent history, just always shuffling coaches. But I think Sirianni, just his style, it just hasn't, especially at the end of last year, you really saw it. He just doesn't gel well with the players. For whatever reason, this was his kind of brainchild. He came in here going to the Eagles saying he was going to make a football team with his football guys and they're in a certain mindset. And it seems like the guys he gets, they might be football guys, but they just don't fuck with him. That's just what it feels like.
I also think a lot of their coordinators that left look like they did a lot more than they got credit for. Like Gannon in Arizona, I think Arizona's defense looks amazing. Like I think that Arizona team, if they can just kind of like get Marvin Harrison going, maybe build up the offense a bit more, could be a contender. And I think you look at the Colts, other than I need a timeout, Richardson. I think Steichen looks amazing. I think the fact that team has 4 wins is crazy to me with how horrible the quarterback play has been, other than Flacco. But Flacco's the GOAT. We all know that. Greatest quarterback of all time. So that's expected from him.
Oh, for sure. All right, my next one for Pretenders Contenders, I've got a contender. This one might be a little shocking, but I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers as actual contenders this year. Now, even going back to last year, their defense was not that good, especially when TJ Watt is out. That defense really just runs behind TJ Watt, and TJ Watt leads that defense. As long as TJ Watt stays healthy, I think he'll cover up any other mistakes that the team has. And I also think that the offense under Russell Wilson, it seems alive. Najee Harris, I thought he took a step back last year. I thought he was starting to get, even though at 26, he's still relatively young. Even as a running back, it's relatively young. It's prime age. He started to look like he was getting a little slow last year. And then all of a sudden this year, Najee Harris looks like a rejuvenized guy. He's been running all over. George Pickens looks like a true stud. He's got some glue on his hands. Found out that 2 foot is not 2 feet in bounds. You can double tap and it's still out of bounds. Hate that as a George Pickens fantasy owner. But Pickens is a true baller. And even with all the talks of them being like in the wide receiver rumors, I don't think they really need another wide receiver. Pickens is a true wide receiver 1, not only because I own him in fantasy, but I think he's a fine guy as a true wide receiver 1. Calvin Austin is still young. He can make some big plays. Van Jefferson, even though he's only 28, he is a veteran. He adds some veteran presence. He was on that super team with the Rams back in the day. And I think the Steelers can really make some noise with Russell Wilson.
Can't forget about Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah, you can't forget Pat Freiermuth. He's a good tight end.
Don't forget about he hasn't played this year, but my boy from Ann Arbor, Roman Wilson, out every game this year so far. I think if he plays, he could be a wide receiver 2 there.
He was a dog in Michigan, so I'll give you that.
He was.
That's true. I completely forgot about Roman Wilson. All right, Evan, who's your next guy you got up, next team?
So this team I have, it's like this. It's like barely inching over the other one, but I think the Rams are contenders.
Ooh,
I think we saw it.
The contender mark.
We saw it this last week. They came in.
I respect it.
I think Minnesota got a little overhyped after the 5-0 start. I still like them, but I think people got a little ahead of themselves. It is still Sam Darnold. But I think the Rams looked great. The offense under Stafford is always going to be producing if you give him the right weapons. And if you have Kupp and Puka out there, you're going to do a lot of really good things in the offensive side of the ball. And it's really nice when you can hand the ball off to a running back that is just going to every single week produce. and then at the same time that you have Blake Corum sitting right behind him. That offense is really
Another
deep, and
Michigan
I'm
guy.
excited.
Blake
Another one of my
Corum.
Michigan
You
boys.
love Blake Corum.
Another one of my Michigan boys. But I think I'm really excited to see that team start to maybe pile some wins up. I mean, they're 3-4, I think, after this last week.
Mhm.
And I'm really excited to see this offense continue to improve because Puka and Cup were both not even 100%. So what are they going to look like when they're both 100% again? It's just Kansas defense without Aaron Donald produced the same.
How's their schedule looking like coming up?
I think they have a relatively easy schedule. I mean, like the 49ers don't look great. The Cardinals don't look super scary, and the Seahawks don't either. So, like, division-wise, they could end up being the top of that division come end of the year. And I don't think other than that many division games they have left, I think they've already played a few of them. Like, no one really stands out as like, oh, yeah, they're going to lose like 5. I think they could go away and maybe only lose like 2 or 3 the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree. That division really is just wide open. It's anyone for the taking, and I would not be surprised if the Rams coming out on top. NFC, yeah.
The NFC is wide open this year, other than Detroit. Detroit's just gonna.
Detroit does look like they're on another level than everyone else.
Which if you told me even just 3 years ago that Detroit would be this good, I would have slapped the fuck out of you.
I would agree, honestly, though. Nikos, who is your last team?
My last team is kind of like I'm on the rails with, I think it's like a mid-tier contender, like slowly to where it could be a pretender, but I chose the Broncos just because I believe in Bo Nix and how he's been fairly, like, very good for a rookie right now so far. Not like shining like Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, them, but he's been working. He's been I think he can carry them to a few more wins, maybe barely get that wild card spot. I know they're like kind of lower in the division. I just think
QB class all time.
Yeah,
I will say I was wrong about Bo Nix. I thought he would be I just thought he would be a little worse. I thought he'd struggle a bit over there, but especially out the gate, even though he had some insane completion percentage in college, I don't know. Something was holding me back on him. But now I'm like, hey, Sean Payton, I guess he knows what he's doing. He got a good one over there in Bo Nix.
It's crazy, too, because even if we go deeper in this class, like Rattler looked pretty solid. Nothing crazy, but Rattler looks like he's shown some pieces of great potential. And we haven't seen Penix, and we haven't seen my third Michigan boy. We can't talk about the other two without talking about him. JJ, unfortunately, we can't see him, but I think he's going to look really good next year when he plays. So I think we could be looking at like 6-7 quarterbacks in one class that are franchise guys. Because obviously May, Daniels, Williams have all looked future franchise guys. It's just we got to see what Penix and Rattler and JJ are going to turn out.
I think Penix – it's going to be interesting because he's obviously sitting for a while, but I think he'll be fine just because of how much he'll sit. It feels like if you sit for a couple years as a QB, you're at least going to be all right. You might not be spectacular, but you'll at least be able to hold your own.
He's sitting under Kirk Cousins, too. It's good.
Yeah, that's not a bad QB to sit under.
Yeah.
I'll sit under Big Kirko.
What do you mean by that?
You know what I mean by that.
Ooh.
He wakes up dripping.
Hey, yo.
True.